Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you some multicolor stamping on peel apart cling background stamps. Peel apart stamps are really versatile because you can use either the entire stamp to create your background or peel it apart and use the individual components to create your own unique design. The stamp I'll be using today is from Simon's stamp called Night Before Christmas. It is a very large stamp, and as you can see, it's going to peel apart. So the background, the silhouette of Santa and his reindeer, and the houses at the bottom can all be separate, or you can stamp them all together. I'll be starting by creating my background so that I have my background peeled apart. I'm lining it up in my MISTI tool. This is the regular sized MISTI. I'm going to pick that up with the door of the MISTI. And then I have a piece of cardstock here. I apologize, I don't have the measurements. I just cut it wide enough for my background and tall enough to fit in my MISTI tool. This is Neenah Solar White cardstock in 80 pound. Once I had that lined up where I wanted it to be, I'm going to start by inking up the background with kind of my base color for my sky. This is Gina K Designs Turquoise Sea ink. So I inked up that entire background and then I'm going to stamp this down. Now it is okay if it is not completely perfect. We're going to be adding layers of color on top. And also because it's Gina's inks, I know her inks are going to smooth out as they dry. So before I move on to my second color, I am going to just clean off that background stamp. Then I'm going to come in with a little bit of a darker color. This is Tranquil Teal, and I'm inking this up just about maybe a little over halfway down. And then I'm going to help with the transition by taking a blending brush, going over those rough edges of where my ink pad ended. This is going to help smooth out that transition from my darkest color down to my lightest color. Then I can stamp this down and you're going to see it's not completely perfect, but I was really happy with these results. And I also have one more color here I want to add at the very top. This is in the navy. It is a really dark blue. Once again, bringing in a blending brush to smooth out those edges. So you could go down even further with that blending brush if you wanted that transition down just a little bit more. So once again, I'll close the door of the MISTI and stamp this down, and you're going to see what an amazing nighttime sky we have here. And those stars are white in the background, so it is just perfect. Now to stamp my silhouette here of Santa and the reindeer, before I remove my background, I'm popping those back into place. Also the houses down at the very bottom, and then I can come in and just peel away that background. Then I'm going to ink up my silhouette images with a VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, which is just a super dark black, and I'm going to stamp it down. Now you are going to notice I'm going to have a white border around the houses and around my silhouette of Santa and the reindeer. I personally love this look. I think it gives it a very storybook feel, almost like you have die cuts on the front of your card. But if you prefer, you could have ink blended over that white area, or because these are peel aparts, you could create your own ink blended sky and stamp the silhouettes down. So totally personal preference, but I really loved this white edge. Now I did stamp those twice because I wanted to make sure I had complete coverage over all of those images. And because it's VersaFine and stays wet longer, I'm going to speed up that drying process with my heat gun. Now I'm taking this to my paper trimmer and I'm just cleaning up the edges right now, getting off any of the white, just making sure everything is nice and clean. And then I'm going to trim my panel down to 3.5 by 7. And I just kind of eyeballed it to make sure that my silhouette images were in the center of the nighttime sky. After I have that trimmed down, I am cutting a piece of white cardstock. This is going to be a very thin white border around my stamped background, so I cut it just a little bit larger than my stamped background. Then I have some red cardstock that I'm going to use as my base that I trimmed down to 4 by 7.5. For sentiment, I am going to use the reverse sentiments, and I often say that these can be foiled, and today I'm going to show you that. I normally leave them black, but I thought a pop of gold would look really amazing with my background. So I have just kind of my leftover sentiments here that I haven't used yet, And I have some thermal web gold foil that I am just trimming to fit the same size as my sentiment labels that I have. I also have my mini MINC machine warming up. The green light is on. I always set mine to either 2 or 3. Since the green light is on, I know it is nice and hot and ready. And then I placed my gold foil on top of my reverse sentiment so it's shiny side up. I placed it in the carrier sheet and then I'm letting that run through my mini MINC machine. Then I'm just going to pull up that excess that's from the foil, and you can see I have these beautifully foiled sentiments on here. So I will save the rest for a later time. I'm die cutting out holiday greetings with the sentiment label die from Simon Says Stamp, and it was quite long. I didn't want it to stretch across the front of my card, so I just trimmed it in half with my scissors, and then I'm lining the back of it with black foam squares. So I wanted to have 2 lines of a sentiment instead of all the way across. And I'm going to call this good. I could add some embellishments, but I think just the whole background itself really tells the story. It really reminds me of the book that we read at Christmas time, the night before Christmas, and I just kind of love that storybook look that this card has. I hope you enjoyed today's inspiration. I will have all of the supplies listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. I appreciate you joining me today, and here are a few other videos I think you might enjoy as well. Thanks again.